Welcome educators to another informational video here to help you pass your RICA test on your next try. This video is being brought to you by RicaTest.com, the official test prep site for the RICA test. In today's video, we are going to go over our RICA Subtest number 3 practice test, and in order to get there, just simply go to RicaTest.com. Scroll past the landing page and the bundle offer and the online course and the study guide that we have going on, as well as the individual study guides, and go straight down here to subtest number 3 practice test. It will take you to our Google form, which is an automated computer scored practice test that allows you to be more prepared for test day. All right, without further ado, let's jump into this. First thing you have to do is put your email in right here. And let's begin. Number 1 says, a 6th grader who is advanced in most areas of reading has difficulty completing assigned reading selections. Wonder why. He appears motivated when he begins reading, but he has difficulty keeping his attention on the task at hand. Which of the following would be his teacher's best initial strategy for addressing this difficulty? Is it going to be number 1, adapting the students' reading assignments to reduce their complexity and level of cognitive challenge? Now this one's sort of tricky because with advanced learners, you want to extend or add to the complexity of the assignment to provide for a more challenging task. However, with no students, you really don't want to reduce the complexity. You want to keep the assignment as it is, but adapt it for the students' learning. So you really want to help provide a scaffold for the learner without reducing any part of the assignment itself. So probably not going to take that one. Let's have a look at the second option, telling the student that his grades will be based in part on his ability to improve his concentration when he works on reading assignments. Folks, with the RICA test, don't ever use this fear tactic. Okay, so let's go on down to the next one. Breaking down the student's reading assignments into smaller steps and helping him learn to monitor his own attention and progress. That one really jumps out to me because according to the RICA content specifications, one of the things that we can and should do for our struggling readers is break assignments up. That third one looks really good. Let's have a look at the fourth option. Managing the student's assignments so that he has only one to work on at any given time. Well, that's sort of like breaking it up. I just don't think that number 4 was written as well as number 3. So we're going to go with the third option. Number 2, when creating lesson plans to promote specific reading skills, a teacher should make sure that, number 1, each planned activity for students is designed to strengthen 2 or more specific reading skills. Well, although that sounds pretty nice, I don't think that's a requirement. Sometimes you want to focus on one. The targeted reading skills relate to an appropriate instructional progression and reflect students' needs. Anything about students' needs, pinpointing to that specific student, is a pretty good answer, but let's keep going. Let's see what options 3 and 4 say. Each planned activity connects students' reading, writing, listening, and speaking skills. Although it sounds it sounds good in theory, you don't always have to. If you're working on a writing lesson, sometimes that lesson will be specifically about writing. Number 4, the targeted reading skills are grade appropriate, good, and taught to all students using the same instructional. No, you don't have to, and more than likely, most of your students, not all of them, will be at the same instructional level. And so what you'll have to do is what we call differentiate your instructional strategies to meet the needs of all learners. So what we're going to go here is with number 2, targeted reading skills. All right, let's go on down to number 3. An early elementary teacher could most effectively support at-home reading by, number 1, sending parents or guardians a regular newsletter describing classroom reading activities. Now, although a newsletter can be informational for the parents to get the gist of what's going on in the classroom, it doesn't necessarily support at-home reading. Number 2, sharing with parents or guardians important articles from professional reading journals. Again, that's sort of icing on the cake, but you don't really know if the parents are reading it. But again, it's kind of good information for parents to have, but does it support at-home reading? Basically, does it get the kid reading at home more? I don't think so. Number 3, recommending books that the parents or guardians would likely enjoy reading with their children. That sounds like much more of a concrete solution. But let's have a look at number 4, providing parents, guardians with periodic reports on their child's progress in reading. Again, good. Looks like icing on the cake, some teacher sort of going above and beyond, but really, again, is it putting a book in a kid's hand and, you know, getting that kid to put that book in the backpack and, giving the kid some accountability with a reading log, like did you or did you not read at home? The best solution here, folks, is number 3. Let's keep going. Number 4, a 6th grade teacher wants to ensure that the classroom reading environment supports content area learning for English learners in the class. Which of the following strategies is likely to be most effective in addressing this objective? Let's have a look here. Number 1, replacing classroom content area books with simpler text on, I can just stop right here. You don't swap out books or assignments for English learners. You meet them at their needs wherever they are and provide them with study and learning strategies that they can take the assignment and still do it, whether that's breaking it up into smaller chunks or providing some help with translation. But you don't give them different books when all of the other kids in the class are reading certain books. So not number 1. Providing English learners with grade level English only content area books to promote academic language. Number 3, making available in the classroom content area text at various levels that supplement and reinforce the information presented in students' textbooks. That one sounds good. Again, provide supplemental and reinforcing information like use scaffolds to help the students take the same books in order to complete the same assignments, but maybe in a different way. All right, so and then the last one, setting up an area in the classroom where students can go to reread the content area textbook quietly and independently. I think that would be great. Set up a place in the classroom where anyone can go read quietly, but still, for English learners specifically, we're going to go with option number 3. Number 5, of the following questions, which would be most important for a teacher to consider when interpreting the results of a reading assessment for a particular student? Is it number 1, how did the student's performance on this assessment compare with that of the student's classmates? Number 2, are these findings sufficient to assign a grade to the student's performance? Number 3, how do these findings relate to the student's performance on other recently administered assessments? That one makes most sense to me so far. Do these findings provide information about the student's ranking in regard to national norms of reading achievement? So everyone, on the RICA test, basically all solutions that I've ever seen that do with comparing the student to other students is not the right one. So like that 4th one, we're not going to choose that. But this findings related to that particular student's past performance, that would be interesting and insightful for the teacher. All right. Number 6, a 4th grade class includes 2 students with individualized education programs or IEPs. When planning classroom entry level and progress monitoring assessments for these students, the teacher should, number 1, make arrangements for the students to be tested in an environment that is quiet and free from distractions. Okay, maybe if that's what their IEP says. Remember, really just what you have to do is read the IEP and follow that. But let's have a look at the other options. Consult the Reading Language Arts Framework for California Public Schools to determine the appropriate assessment for students with IEPs. Again, you have to understand that every student's IEP is individual to that own student, so there is no one book for all students. You have to go look at the individual student's IEP, so not that one. Number 3, recognize that these students may require additional time to complete their work on these assessments. Again, if their IEP states extra time, then that's what you can give them, but there is no one size fits all. So perhaps it's going to be option number 4. But let's have a look at what it says. Consult each student's IEP, there we go, to determine any specific testing and accommodations required for that student. That is no doubt the answer. Number 7, a middle school teacher is preparing for the class to take the 6th grade California Standards Test, CST, in English Language Arts. The teacher believes that a student in the class with a Section 504 plan would perform significantly better on the assessment if she were allowed to have frequent supervised breaks within sections of the test. Which of the following guidelines would be most important for the teacher to follow to ensure that arrangements for the student during the tests are appropriate? Number one, providing the student with this testing accommodation only if it is specified in her Section 504 plan. That one is, my guess, is probably the right one because it's identifying the individual student's plan. All right, let's go check out option number two. Using good teacher judgment. I can already tell you that's not going to be it. To determine if such accommodation is warranted, it's not up to the teacher. Number three, following whatever accommodations are generally recommended for students with Section 504 plans. Again, there is not one size fits all for Section 504 plans. Like the IEPs, it is up to each student's individual plan. Last one, requiring testing accommodations for students in writing at least 8 weeks before the test is given. Just to coordinate administration and space, if a student's Section 504 plan or IEP states to provide them with quiet space, you might want to let other teachers and administrators know that you're looking to provide test administration, but that's only if the 504 or IEP warrants that. So we're going back up to the first option, and let's go down to the last one, number 8. Midway through the year, a second grade teacher conveys a student success team to plan additional support for a student who is performing somewhat below grade level standards in reading. Other members of the team include the student and her parents, another teacher who works closely with the student, and a school administrator. In the context of developing an improvement plan for the student, which of the following pieces of information would be most important for the teacher to communicate to the success team? Is it number one, a comparison of the student's reading skills with those of her peers? Again, we are not comparing students to students, so not going to be number one. Number two, a list of each of the formal and informal reading assessments that the student has taken so far during the school year. Although the results of the test would probably be useful to everyone, I don't necessarily think a list of them would be. Number three, again, a list, looks like the same two words, a list of appropriate formal reading assessments that could be used for the student's summative evaluations. I mean, you could prepare that. You could say, based off what I've seen, I think these, assessments might be useful in giving us more feedback or information about the students. But at the same time, you don't want to give students more assessments than they already had to take, certainly not more than what their peers are taking. I don't like that option either. Let's have a look at the last one. A description of the student's assessed strengths and weaknesses that could serve as a foundation for addressing her needs. That one sounds really good. So for example, if you've noticed that this student does really well with audio recordings, then that could be something to put in place for future readings or test taking accommodations if that's appropriate for the student's IEP or Section 504 plan if they have one. So definitely we're going to go with the last option here. So now everyone, once you complete your own practice test, just go down, click the submit button, and it will be automatically graded from the computer. And as this note says, we really wish you the best of luck from RICATest.com to you on your journey to passing the RICA test. Remember that all of our informational resources as well as our study guide products can be found at RICATest.com. Go ahead, click this button, view the score. Hopefully we did all right. Okay, looks like we answered the questions correctly, which is great. Everyone, I really hope this explanation for the Subtest 3 practice test helped you better understand what to sort of think of when you're taking the multiple choice section on your RICA test. Again, all of our resources are at RICATest.com, and this is the official test prep site for the RICA test.